LeBron joins Jaylen Brown in Philly. Boston eyes Bradley Beal, and more Celtics offseason bombshells. What's up, Celtics Nation? Welcome back to Celtics Daily Hub. If you thought this offseason couldn't get any crazier after the Jaylen Brown trade, buckle up, because the basketball gods just dropped the biggest bombshell of the entire summer. LeBron James, the king himself, is not walking away from the game. He is not reuniting with the Warriors. He's not going home to Cleveland. LeBron James is going to Philadelphia. And yes, that means he is now teammates with the exact same Jaylen Brown that Boston just shipped out the door. In today's video, we are breaking down 5 massive stories rocking the Celtics world right now. LeBron's stunning decision to sign with the Sixers, what it means for Jaylen Brown and for Boston's rivals, the report that Bradley Beal could be putting on a Celtics jersey next, the grade the front office just earned for locking up Namias Queta, and a handful of under-the-radar roster moves you need to know about heading into training camp. So, grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's get into it. But first, if you're new here, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell, because we drop Celtics content every single day. Let's go. LeBron James shocks the league, signs with the 76ers. Okay, let's start with the story that broke the internet. LeBron James is officially a Philadelphia 76er. According to Sports Illustrated's Chris Mannix, James has agreed to a 2-year, $8 million deal with Philly, with a player option on year 2. And get this, the actual salary he's collecting is right around the veteran's minimum. We are talking about a future top 2 player of all time taking a bargain bin contract to chase one more shot at a championship, and doing it with a franchise he has zero prior connection to. Think about how wild that is for a second. This isn't Miami, where James spent years of his prime. This isn't a 3rd stint in Cleveland, the place he made home twice already. This isn't even a farewell tour with Golden State and Steph Curry, which felt like the sentimental, storybook ending a lot of people expected. Nope. LeBron is going to Philadelphia, 3,000 miles from his family in Los Angeles, to play his age 41 season for a franchise that has never won anything with him. And here's the detail that has everybody talking. Last week at Fanatics Fest, LeBron was on stage with Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton and dropped the phrase, "trusting the process," when talking about his free agency decision. Everyone in that crowd immediately clocked what that meant, because that phrase is basically synonymous with Philadelphia's rebuild era. Halliburton tried to laugh it off, telling the crowd it was just a phrase. Turns out, it wasn't just a phrase at all. LeBron was telling us exactly where he was going, right to our faces, and nobody believed him. So why Philly? According to Mannix's reporting, James addressed this himself, saying, "This decision isn't about money. And it isn't about family. His son Bronny is still under contract with the Lakers, his other son Bryce is playing college ball at Arizona, and his wife and daughter remain in LA. For LeBron, this is purely about one thing: winning." He said he believes he can help turn Philadelphia into a championship team, and that he's excited to energize a brand new fan base for what could be the final chapter of his career. Now, here's where this gets really spicy for us as Celtics fans. The 76ers didn't just add LeBron this offseason. They also acquired Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics in a trade for Paul George. So think about that roster for a second. Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, and now LeBron James. That is an absolutely stacked, high-usage, star-studded roster on paper. Philly also added sharpshooter Anthony Simons and defensive-minded veteran Dean Wade in free agency. So this isn't just LeBron walking into a mediocre situation. This is a legitimate title contender being built in real time. But, and this is a big but, scouts around the league are already raising red flags about the fit. One Eastern Conference scout put it bluntly: "That's a lot of guys who are going to want the ball in their hands making plays. Embiid, Brown, Maxey, and now LeBron, all ranked in the top 50 in usage rate among starters last season. That's 4 ball-dominant stars trying to share one basketball." An anonymous coach with ties to the organization even suggested that in Joel Embiid's mind, this is still very much his team, and when he's out there, He expects to be the focal point, getting his 20 shots a night and controlling the middle of the floor. And let's not forget the Jaylen Brown angle here specifically, because Boston fans know this storyline all too well. Brown and LeBron have had some public friction over the years. There was that whole situation with LeBron making comments about Bronny that Brown didn't take kindly to. Now these two are supposed to coexist, share touches, and win a championship together. That is must-watch television for anybody who has followed this rivalry. The bigger picture here, though, is what this means for LeBron's legacy. He's already got 4 rings, 10 finals appearances, and is in the conversation for the greatest player who ever lived. Philadelphia's top executive Bob Myers went on the record saying that if it's about winning, Philly is the team that can get it done for him. Whether that's true remains to be seen, but one thing's for certain. LeBron chasing a 5th ring in Philadelphia, using assets that Boston helped hand them by trading away Jaylen Brown, is one of the most fascinating storylines heading into next season. Drop a comment below. Do you think LeBron and Jaylen Brown can actually coexist on that roster? Or is Philly about to have serious chemistry problems? Boston's sharpshooter slips away. Trailblazers steal Tanya in stunning move. The Boston Celtics just lost a weapon they didn't expect to lose. Tanya, the 25-year-old guard who turned heads with his three-point shooting, has signed a 2-way contract with the Portland Trailblazers, leaving Boston fans stunned and questioning what went wrong. The Boston Celtics have built their reputation on depth, defense, and star power. But every championship contender needs reliable shooters to stretch the floor. That's why the sudden departure of Tanya feels like more than just a minor roster shuffle. It's a blow to Boston's offensive balance. Tanya, drafted 53rd overall by the Utah Jazz in 2025, struggled to find his footing early in his career. But when he landed in Boston, he quickly showed flashes of being a hidden gem. In just 6 games with the Celtics, Tanya's minutes were limited, yet his impact was undeniable. He played with confidence, spacing the floor and knocking down shots that energized the second unit. His real breakout moment came in the G League with the Maine Celtics, where he erupted for 42 points in a single game, proving he could be more than just a role player. That performance wasn't a fluke, it was a statement. Tanya carried that momentum into the Summer League, where he averaged 14.8 points per game while shooting an impressive 45.2% from three-point range. For a team like Boston, which thrives when its shooters complement stars like Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Tanya's skill set seemed tailor-made. Fans and analysts alike began to see him as a potential rotation piece, someone who could grow into a reliable perimeter threat. Yet, in a surprising twist, the Celtics didn't lock him down. Instead, the Portland Trailblazers swooped in with a 2-way contract offer, and Tanya accepted. For Portland, this is a low-risk, high-reward move. They gain a young guard with proven shooting ability, someone who can immediately provide spacing and scoring off the bench. For Tanya, it's a chance to carve out a bigger role in a team that is rebuilding and hungry for talent. Boston, however, may regret letting him slip away. The Celtics' offense has often relied heavily on their stars, and when the bench struggles to hit shots, spacing collapses. Losing a consistent three-point specialist like Tanya could hurt their ability to maintain offensive rhythm, especially in long playoff runs where every possession matters. This move also raises questions about Boston's roster strategy. Did the front office underestimate Tanya's potential? Was it simply a numbers game, with too many guards competing for limited spots? Or did Portland simply act faster and more decisively? Whatever the reason, the Celtics now face the reality of watching a player they helped develop thrive elsewhere. For fans, it's bittersweet. Tanya's story was just beginning in Boston, and his flashes of brilliance hinted at a bigger role. Now, that chapter closes abruptly, and the Celtics must look elsewhere to fill the shooting void. Meanwhile, the Trailblazers may have just found themselves a diamond in the rough, a player who could grow into a reliable scorer and change games with his shooting touch. In today's NBA, where three-point shooting is king, losing a specialist like Tanya is more than just losing a bench piece. It's losing a weapon. And for Boston, a team chasing another championship banner, that loss could sting more than expected. Could Bradley Beal be headed to Boston? All right, let's shift gears to a story that directly involves our Celtics roster, because this one has serious buzz right now. Bradley Beal to Boston. According to Celtics Wire's Justin Quinn, Beal is drawing real interest from the Celtics this offseason, and the connection makes a ton of sense once you dig into it. Beal and Jayson Tatum are longtime friends going all the way back to St. Louis. They grew up just minutes apart, and Beal's own mother used to drive both of them to school back when Beal was a senior in high school and Tatum was still in the 7th grade. That's a real, deep relationship, not just some manufactured trade rumor connection. Now, on the basketball reporting side, Jake Fisher spoke on a recent Bleacher Report live stream and confirmed that Boston is genuinely in the mix here. He specifically said Beal's decision isn't being held up by LeBron's choice, but it is being impacted by it, since Miami has interest too. But Fisher made a point to say he wouldn't rule Boston out of the Beal sweepstakes because of that Tatum connection. And when a well-connected NBA reporter says that on the record, that's worth paying attention to. Let's talk about where Beal actually is in his career right now, because it's important context. He's a 3-time All-Star, a former All-NBA player back in the 2020-21 season, and for a stretch there, he was averaging over 30 points a game with the Wizards. But health has been a massive problem the last several years. He's played just 40 games one season, 50 another, and last year with the Clippers, he suffered a left hip fracture that required season-ending surgery, limiting him to only 6 total appearances. When he did play, he was scoring around 8 points a game on limited minutes. This is not the same explosive scorer from his Washington days. So here's the real question. Can the Celtics even fit him in financially? Boston already used its full mid-level exception to sign veteran big man Mitchell Robinson earlier this summer, which means the only way to add Beal is through the veterans minimum or the biannual exception. And according to NESN's reporting, there's an even more interesting wrinkle here. Boston is currently sitting about $1.7 million below the luxury tax line with one open roster spot. A veteran minimum deal for Beal would run around $3.9 million, which would actually push Boston about $2.2 million over the tax, money they'd need to shed before the trade deadline in February. The name being floated as a potential casualty in that scenario is newly signed guard Mike Conley, whose $2.4 million veteran minimum salary counts identically against the cap, whether it's him or Beal on the roster. So if Boston wants to bring in Beal, it might mean waving goodbye to a guy they just brought in weeks earlier. That's a tough call for Brad Stevens to make, and it's not a given that Beal is actually the right positional fit either, since he's a scorer, not a true point guard, and Conley fills a different need running the offense. Not everyone thinks Beal is the answer either. Some analysts have pointed out that at this stage of his career, Beal is basically a specialist scorer whose efficiency has slipped, and that a healthier, cheaper option like Russell Westbrook coming off the bench might actually provide more two-way value in a reserve role. It's a fair debate. Beal brings scoring pedigree and a real relationship with Tatum, but he also brings significant injury risk to a Celtics roster that's already trying to navigate life without Jaylen Brown and, let's be honest, still dealing with Tatum's own recovery timeline after his Achilles injury. So here's where things stand. Boston hasn't ruled out Bradley Beal. The Tatum friendship gives this real substance beyond just rumor mill noise. But the roster math means somebody probably has to go if this deal actually happens. Let us know in the comments. Would you rather see the Celtics bring in Bradley Beal for that scoring punch, or keep Mike Conley running the point and look elsewhere for depth? Namias Queta's extension gets a huge grade. Now let's talk about a move Boston already made and got serious credit for. Namias Queta just locked up a 4-year, $56 million extension with the Celtics, and according to Heavy Sports, ESPN's Zach Kram handed Boston an A- grade for the deal in his full league-wide offseason report card. Here's why analysts are so high on this contract. Kram pointed out that Queta's advanced metrics are elite. He ranks in the 96th percentile among all players in per-possession impact using estimated plus-minus data. That's an incredible number for a guy who had literally never played 1,000 minutes in a season before last year. Kram specifically called this deal a bargain for Boston, especially when you compare it to some of the much pricier center contracts that got handed out across the league this offseason. Let's talk about what Queta actually did to earn this. Across 76 regular season games last year, he averaged 10.2 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 1.7 assists per game, while shooting an absolutely absurd 65.3% from the field. That efficiency number is elite-level stuff for a big man. Now, it wasn't a perfect season. His inexperience showed up during the playoffs, where he battled foul trouble in the biggest moments. But for a former two-way player who had to earn every single minute of playing time, locking him up for 4 years at an average of $14 million a season is exactly the kind of shrewd, value-based move Brad Stevens has built his reputation on. Here's the wrinkle, though. Queta's grip on the starting center job isn't guaranteed anymore. Boston also brought in Mitchell Robinson this summer, fresh off winning a championship with the Knicks. Robinson has battled injury issues throughout his career and will likely play under some kind of minutes restriction, which actually could open the door for Queta to keep starting, or at the very least, plays starter-level minutes off the bench. Either way you look at it, having two legitimate rim-protecting bigs on affordable contracts gives Boston real flexibility, and it makes Queta's contract even more valuable as a trade chip down the road if the front office ever decides to go star hunting again. This is exactly the kind of depth-building move that flies under the radar during a chaotic offseason, but pays off over years. Smart, cost-controlled, and forward-thinking. Jordan Walsh extends, roster odds, and ends. Before we wrap up, let's run through a few more roster notes that Celtics fans need on their radar. According to Hoops Rumors, Jordan Walsh has officially finalized his own extension with Boston, a 3-year deal reported to be in the $15 to $16 million range. Digging into the exact numbers, Walsh is set to earn $5 million guaranteed in the 2027 to 28 season and $5.25 million the year after that, with a $5.5 million team option tacked onto the final season in 2029 to 30. That's another young, cost-effective piece the front office has locked into the long-term core, continuing the trend of Brad Stevens rewarding player development and internal growth rather than always chasing outside splashes. And it's worth connecting the dots here. This Walsh extension came in the same stretch as the Queta deal, right in the middle of a summer where Boston also missed out on a run at Giannis Antetokounmpo and completed the blockbuster trade sending Jaylen Brown to Philadelphia for Paul George. It's genuinely been one of the most eventful off-seasons in recent Celtics history, and locking up young talent like Walsh and Queta shows the front office is still building for sustained contention, not just reacting to headlines. Elsewhere around the league, Hoops Rumors also noted that Boston currently has 14 players under contract with 2 open two-way spots remaining, and the front office could still be exploring adding a veteran on a minimum deal before the season kicks off, which loops right back into that Bradley Beal conversation we just talked about. On the Summer League front, The Athletic's John Hollinger has been tracking standout performers in Las Vegas, and while none of the headline names were Celtics prospects specifically, it's always worth keeping an eye on how Boston's two-way and fringe roster players are developing heading into training camp. So let's recap where things stand for Boston heading into next season. LeBron James shocked the basketball world by signing with Philadelphia, reuniting, awkwardly, with the very same Jaylen Brown that Boston traded away this summer, and instantly making the Sixers one of the scariest rosters on paper in the entire Eastern Conference. That same move opened the door for a wide-open East, one where a retooled Celtics team still has every chance to make noise. On top of that, Boston is genuinely engaged in the Bradley Beal sweepstakes, thanks to his friendship with Jayson Tatum, even if the roster math is complicated. And behind the scenes, the front office quietly strengthened its foundation by locking up Namias Queta and Jordan Walsh on team-friendly extensions that graded out as some of the smartest business moves of the entire offseason. This is shaping up to be one of the most unpredictable seasons in recent Celtics memory, and honestly, that's what makes it must-watch basketball. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button, drop a comment with your take on the LeBron move and the Beal rumors, and make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because we've got Celtics coverage dropping every single day right here on Celtics Daily Hub. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.